to an episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm Omar, and I'll be your host as always. This is where we talk about leadership in honestly the boutique retail world. What does that mean? We're talking about AV, we're talking about appliances, we're talking about wireless, we're talking about furniture, we're talking about anything outside of traditional big box retail, where we're a lot more niche down in the offerings that we have. And honestly, we actually have salespeople on our team. And we're focused on particular products and more importantly the services to make those products work. And what I talk about the most is helping you realize your leadership capabilities to help turn your teams into actual sales teams. I know the feeling that you have where you're feeling like you have a larger back door than you do a front door, where you feel that you're being essentially chained by the type of quality of people that you have applying because you think that they have to come with it, that they have to already have this and that. And why is that? Because you're not willing to invest in the training that they need, the coaching to be able to get them up to the level that you need them to be at. And you got to realize that it does take time for us to be able to bring people on board, get them trained up to just the core basics for them to be able to flourish and for us to see our pretty much net returns on those, right? Our ROI on the investment of just hiring them, because that's honestly not where things are at. So today we're going to talk about, the cost, both time and cost of hiring, as well as the investment of training and developing what that can look like. Okay. And the fallacy of the end of month numbers for a lot of leadership people and how that's going to cost you. Okay. So first, let's talk about it. Guys, you're honestly spending anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks on the fast end of things to hire people on for your locations, for your teams. And think about it. You're taking so much time and energy and honestly capital to bring people on board, only for you to turn around and say, if these people aren't up and running within 2 weeks, then we got to get them out of the business. And that's not how things run. That's not how business is operated. Okay? Think about it. It's going to take you a minimum, realistic, and you guys know this. If you don't know how long it takes you to bring somebody on board from start to finish, what the average time to hire is, you need to understand that before you even look at anything else. Because when you realize that it's going to take you at a minimum, if you have somebody on board already that says yes, okay, you have a referral that is available to work, you're probably looking at about 3 weeks, okay, on the fast side of things for them to really come on board and start working, okay, where they at least can do the bare minimum. Realistically, on the faster side of things, you're talking about 6 to 8 weeks at the fastest side, because you still have to go through prospecting, right? You still got to go through the resumes, you still got to go through the candidates, you got to go through the phone interviews, you got to go through the in-person interviews, see if they're good candidates, good fits. So the STAR method is huge. If you guys don't have that, grab that in the description. Okay, that's gonna go a very long way. But realistically, you're taking about a month and a half to 2 months to be able to bring people on board. Because guess what? Sometimes you're going to hire some of these people and they're going to leave right after starting because you don't have something, you don't have a system ingrained to really bring them on board. Maybe they're hiding something that they didn't want to know about. For instance, maybe they thought that, okay, you're just going to bend over and give me the schedule that I want so I can get this other job and work 2 jobs. But you need them to work a different shift or a rotating shift because that's what the business entails, right? You're going to have people that are going to come and go. That's the gist of things. Okay? So when you think about it, it's going to take you 6 to 8 weeks realistically. What is the cost, right, for the hiring process? What is the cost for the interviewing process? What is the cost of opportunities lost because you don't have the appropriate staff at the location? People either not willing to stay or people feeling rushed and they just want to get in and get out because they see a longer line and they just feel that peer pressure of, God, this is going to take forever. Customer dissatisfaction because it's taking so long to be able to get to those individuals, right? And you're not even talking about the knowledge of the staff, the capabilities of the staff. You're just talking about from the clientele side, from the customer side. So you got to look at the lost revenue and opportunity cost that is causing you. And this is where you have to understand where the training aspect, why is that so important? The coaching aspect, because that's going to help you, one, reduce the churn that you have on the back end, and two, is going to help you speed up the process to be able to bring your new hires on board where they're at least 50 to 60% capable of where you need them to be at. Okay. Part of being able to scale up and be good at what you do takes time, because you have to master certain things before you can move on to the next step. It's just like working out. You cannot go and not been to the gym for years and think that you're just going to go in, go ham on the first day. Okay? Or worse, you've never ever been to an actual gym and you go ham on the first day and think that you're going to be able to keep that same routine up the next day or the following day. Okay? You guys know that's not how that works. Your body is sore. You physically cannot move. You're going to do more damage than you're going to actually gain from it by continuing that. You have to be able to have those reps and rests in between. So you have to know how much to throw on and how much to pull back as a leader. Okay? You can't just be throwing things onto your people and expect them, yeah, they're just going to get it. They're just going to get it. They're just going to get it. That's not how things work in the real world. Okay? Especially when we're talking about sales, because part of it is it may not be physical demand on our body, but the mental demand and the demand on our willpower, okay, is honestly very exhausting. And you have to understand that. Once you understand that aspect, you start to move on to the next step of your leadership, of your training capabilities, of your coaching capabilities, where you're able to really train up and coach your people, okay? Because now you can spend time, you can get them to understand what the actual demands are going to be. You can start weaning them in, right? You're leading them in to what you actually need them to be able to accomplish. But you can't throw them on the deep end. You can't be expecting them to come in without any knowledge of appliances and be able to sell Thermador, Viking, Sub-Zero, Wolf right off the bat. It doesn't work that way. You can't bring somebody in that's never had any AV experience and expect them to be able to build out a $50,000 to $70,000 home theater system. It's not going to happen. You can't bring somebody into the wireless industry and expect them to never use the system before to all of a sudden be able to turn around and do a 10, 20 line deal right off the bat, let alone a 1 or 2 line deal without running into major frustration and issues because they don't know what they don't know. They don't understand the system. They don't understand what they need to go through. Okay? Yes, sales is transferable as far as the skills goes. Okay. But the bigger issue is the systems that they have to use, the processes, the products, how they all work together to be able to actually accomplish that. And when you're not training and developing your team on the bare basics of that stuff, it starts to become a bigger issue. They feel like they're barely treading water. Even best salespeople that have done tremendous, done really great sales at other organizations are still going to feel the same way. And you're going to wonder why. I just can't find people. I've been in an organization once where I was in charge of a territory and I was told that, they didn't really have anybody there before. Come to find out, they fucking had like 5 people in the territory prior. And I wonder why they left. Okay? It's that kind of bullshit that happens, and then companies wonder why it's hard to find people. It's hard to keep people, right? And it's like, well, these people, found a way. It's like, are you sure they found a way, or they just happened to have some of the connections that they needed and kind of understood at least some of the bare basics to really be, successful in this area. And even then, imagine if they had the right, proper training, how much more success we would actually be seeing, because there's so much that we're leaving on the table. And those are the little things that people don't truly understand, right? Coaching, training, developing goes a long way. That doesn't mean you need to do a fucking 8-hour or week-long data dump. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about quick, actionable trainings and coachings, not write-ups, actual coaching sessions where they're taking something away that they can actually use right off the bat and see a success from it. So, okay, that's what that was. Or be able to connect 2 pieces together and be like, oh my God, it was that simple thing. Like, I've been doing it and I was just missing that one step. Okay? Yes, that's also a heart. But that's what I'm saying, okay? You have to take time to train and develop your people to that. It's gonna take time. As a leader, you have to invest your time. I was actually watching, because I have YouTube Premium, so I got a bunch of stuff that tends to pop up on my feeds. And Alex, I was watching an Alex Hormozy episode, and he was talking about part of the training that they have, okay, is realizing that they need to be coached and trained, because you can't expect somebody who doesn't have just the bare competencies to be able to do it. But you're not doing long hour training sessions, right? You're doing short trainings and being able to focus in and hone in on those small things that they need to do to fix to become better, right? Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I've talked about it. For me, the 15 coaching framework that I use uses a lot of repetition. It uses a lot of psychological frameworks and principles to really get you to use the role playing sessions and the role playing idea in my opinion, a far better and easier method. Because I get it, you guys don't like doing role plays. Nobody fucking loves doing role plays. I'm an exception. I fucking love doing role plays. Okay, why? Because I get to actually focus in on the things that matter. You know who else loves to do fucking role plays? Basketball players, football players, soccer players, football, right? Cricket, okay? For all you guys that do, frisbee golf, for you guys that play D&D, there's so many examples, right, of you going through and doing role play, because you're pretty much all a role play is practice after practice after practice, okay? And, MJ, Kobe, they fucking talked about it. They've missed more shots on the court, okay, than they've ever actually taken in a game. Why? Because they're constantly practicing off the court. For us, our court is when we're in the fucking interaction with the client, with the customer. So when you're coaching, we're doing real-time coaching, you just deal with the customer, and that's how you're gonna learn. They're gonna fucking learn, don't get me wrong. But it's gonna be such a bad experience for everybody involved. Yeah, you can tell a customer, like, yeah, I'm in training, I'm still kind of learning the ropes. Great. As a customer, I got somebody who doesn't fucking know what they're doing. Like, the fuck do I want to do business with this company for? Okay? That is what you guys need to understand. That's why coaching, training, developing plays such an important and integral part, because once you can do that, and you can get your people to at least a basic competency, you would be surprised at how fast they will actually become better at what they're doing and how much more productive they will be. You're talking about, I want them to be able to produce within 2 weeks what my team that's been here for 5 years can fucking do. That's not realistic. Okay? Unless they were a boomerang employee that fucking came back, you got to be real about what to expect from your new people. And you have to set those expectations for them and for you. That is why I also do like the 90-day milestone, right, for new hires, because they need to understand what I expect from them and where I'm going to be helping them, what we're going to be working on to build them up. Okay? I'm not going to keep drilling, the situations, the practices, all that stuff over and over and over again. We're going to have, quick coaching sessions, 15-minute coaching framework, right? We're going to have quick coaching sessions. We're going to go over one particular item, and we're going to really drill that in a short session. And then I want you to go use that, because I want them to start seeing the results of what we're practicing, the results of what we're talking about. Why? Because the moment they start seeing the results, boom, oh my God, that was so easy. Let me do this. Like, let me throw that into my routine. And they're starting to see the things that actually work. Guys, I've told you 60% of the time, it works all the time. That's literally, I know, if you guys know the quote, if you guys know what movie it's from, let me know. But that is a fucking sales quote. Because we're not going to close 100% of the time every single day. We got follow-up funnels for that, right? We got CRM systems to help us with the ones we don't close that day. But the ones that happen to fall into that 60%, yes, all right, we're going to close this. This is what we're going to do. And boom. And you start teaching them that. They start learning that. And before you know it, what you set out as a 90-day milestone period, a lot of them are able to complete and really get after within a 30 to 45-day period. Guys, remember, the milestones is yes for them to kind of understand what the expectations are of where they should be at. For you as a leader, I don't care if you're a regional director, area, store, multi-unit, it doesn't matter. Okay, that's for you to understand where I need to be at, where my people need to be focused at. Okay, and then when they understand those expectations, and when they understand, okay, we're gonna focus in really on more of the basic stuff that we need to do. And when they start hitting those milestones before the date they're supposed to, they start getting this confidence. I can do this. Boom. And they start to produce faster. They start to really get involved more. And that's super, super important. Okay. Which leads me to the other aspect we were talking about, right? Which is the fallacy of the end of month numbers. It's not that I don't care about the end of month numbers. It's that a lot of our stuff still has to be delivered, still has to be installed, right? Some of that stuff, we still have to wait months to make sure it isn't charged back. I don't care about the end of month numbers per se. I care about what sticks on the dashboard after the chargeback period. I don't care if that's X days after installation or delivery. I don't care if that's, 6 months, 12 months down the road. I care about what sticks the most. We're never going to have 0% churn on anything, right? Stuff happens, life happens. We know that. We got to be realistic about what to expect. But when the push is all about the front end numbers, right? But I just got to focus on the end of month numbers. I just got to focus on the end of month numbers, and that's it. You don't focus on the clients. You don't focus on the customer satisfaction. You don't focus on that return business. Because really what you're telling your team is we just got to screw as many people as we can because all I care about is that end of month number. And then they wonder why their bonuses, their commissions are horrendous because they have so many fucking chargebacks. Yeah, even though on the front end, that location may look like it's fucking baller, but on the back end, after the chargebacks, after the churn report, they're mediocre at best because there's other locations that are sound on their numbers and the way that they're producing, right? And that team's only going to get better, where the other one's going to get worse. Because the fuck you mean I was supposed to be paid out at 120, 130%, but I'm being paid out at 80%. Why? Because churn. Because chargebacks. Because they only cared about the front end numbers and they didn't focus on what matters. Selling, guys, is not about what you sell out the door. That is, we all know this. If you've been in sales for a long time, you know this. That is the start of the sales process. Because I care that you fucking stay with this, that you keep this, that you're happy with this. That is the actual start of the sales interaction. Because now I got to make sure it gets installed. If you guys are on appliances, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Making sure that they have the spec sheets for the installs, right? Making sure that the shit's going to fit when it gets delivered. Because if it don't, that's a bigger issue, right? Product returned. Stuff I'm going to have issues selling. There's going to be less margin, right? Manufacturers are going to take it back because this or that. I want to avoid that issue. Make sure everything is good. Be adamant about it. I'm not going to sell a $40,000 fucking kitchen if the customer or the contractors aren't going to do the basics of what's needed to make sure this shit's going to fit. Okay? Before we even pull the trigger, let me go out there, let me send a team out there to verify the measurements to make sure this is going to fit. Because if it doesn't, we need to pick something else. Oh, okay. AV system, right? Same exact thing. Making sure the screen's going to fit, making sure we have the right throw, making sure that the acoustics of the room are going to be kind of what we're looking for to be able to get that vibe, that feel of what the customer, the client is going to want or expect. Setting the proper expectations. Letting them know this is what we'll cover. This is what you're going to be responsible for. Having the right fucking scope of work. Because all you're doing is just selling it and you don't care about the scope of work. And you wonder why that shit keeps getting returned. There goes the commissions, there goes the spiffs. Now I have products sitting that I'm gonna have trouble actually selling, but I've lost all this money on it now. Okay. That's the stuff that we're talking about. It's about making sure that the front end numbers and the back end numbers for the returns, the chargeback reports, right, are as close to each other as possible. Because when there's a bigger delta, we got a fucking issue, right? If your location's producing 70, 80, $90,000, but your fucking churn on the back door is 10, 20% of that or more, we got a fucking issue, right? And that goes to coaching, training, and developing. Not to write-ups. Not for your salespeople anyway. The write-ups should be going to the leadership at that location, the coaches, the managers that aren't doing their fucking job. Because now they're just throwing their people out there and their people are drowning, their people are treading water. And now we're going to have a bunch of people leaving because we can't get shit straight with the leadership teams. Guys, as leaders, it starts and ends with us. We set the expectations, we allow what gets allowed. If we have horrendous churn, if we constantly are flipping customers, or not customers, but flipping employees, right? That is typically a leadership issue. It falls on the managers. Okay? And you are to blame. And you have to take ownership of that. You don't want to be the person that everything falls on. I get it. You just want things to work. Part of what we do, though, is making sure our teams have the support that they need. The support means that we're offering coachings, we're doing trainings, we're developing our team. Coachings are not write-ups. PIPs, right? Performance improvement plans, that bullshit, those aren't coaching sessions. Those aren't training sessions. Okay? That's you thinking, well, I just fire this person, I'll just start all over again and find somebody else. Cool. You're losing market share. You could have had a great individual. You just had to spend a little bit of time coaching and training these people, but you didn't. And then you wonder why I need to come in and I need to be the person that saves this location. I need to save the team. I got to keep selling. No. When you step into a leadership role, you need to understand that you need to scale back and actually be able to train your people up. Okay? Think of it like this way. Think of all the head coaches, right? Pick your favorite sport. Look at the head coach and compare their stats, because obviously we all know this. They typically all played ball back in the day. Compare their stats to some of the leaders in the field. And you're going to understand that, hey, they were maybe mediocre at best typically. They were average. But man, their strategy, especially when they got winning teams, their strategies for developing teams is fucking amazing. You have to learn to scale back and really step in, right? And that's going to show you guys tremendously. And sometimes you're going to have amazing players that suck as coaches, okay? Because they just can't transfer what they have inherently to other people because they don't know how to coach and train it because they just need to come with it. Listen, I'm a big MJ fan, okay? Jordan, back in the day when I grew up, was the GOAT. And I still say that to this day. But we all know, what the Hornets, the Magic, right? The team that he took over, how horrible they are. Why? Because it hasn't transferred. He was a great individual player. He did great as, on the team and was able to get everybody to go. But he wasn't the coach. Okay. As a coach, he had those issues. So you got to understand, your top salespeople typically are not going to be your best coaches. They're not going to be your best leaders. They're actually going to be some of the ones that produce the most horrible results in a leadership role because they don't get it. And part of it is because they haven't been trained and developed. Some of them may have a chip, on their shoulder where they're not going to want to listen to other people and they're just going to be like, whatever. Right? I'll just keep stepping in and trying to save it. But that only works for so long. Your teams, when you teach them by training and developing them, by coaching them. You'll start seeing them step up. And I've said it, when you got a team of 5 to 10 people that at best can produce 60 to 70% of your productivity that you as a top seller can do, they will still fucking outsell you. Why? Because there's more of them than there are of you. And just 2 or 3 people are going to double or triple what you as an individual could produce. And then when you're able to train other people along that swath, over time, they will get better. Far better than what you thought. And that's where things start to happen. So you have to take the ego aside and know that at first, I'm going to be in the suck. It's going to take a little bit of time to really train and develop these people. It's going to take less time than what you think it's going to take. But by focusing and training and developing, you're going to go a long way to making sure that your team is fucking amazing. So guys, make sure you understand coaching, training, developing is going to go a long way. If you're wondering how can I step up and really pick this up and take it, take a look at the description of the video, grab those resources while they're still available, okay? And start using them. And if you want to come across other people, I am thinking of building a community of leaders like us to really help us to train, coach, hold us accountable, right? To making sure that we're doing what we said we're going to do. So if you'd like to be part of that, shoot me a message, leave a comment, let me know. Guys, before we leave for the day, I want to say thank you for taking time to watch another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. Be sure to hit that like, subscribe button, right? That way you stay up in the know with new stuff coming out. And I'll catch you on the next one.